failed you.
No. There is another.
When you advocate a philosophy, you're a salesperson. And if you're gonna sell, you'd better sell well, particularly when souls are on the line, and your product is a harder sell than your competitors. Like everyone else, Darth Vader happened through a combination of choices and circumstance, and failures, internal and external. And there's no understanding him without appreciating the trauma and the subsequent fear it produced in Anakin Skywalker. Fear that was sensed by the Jedi around him, but still never sufficiently mitigated. If leaders are responsible, in part, for the failure of their group, then we have to ask if Yoda bears at least some of the blame in this fictional but very real story about how failing to preemptively course correct ourselves and others leads to chaos. Chaos that returns to us the very work we neglected to do in the first place. We know Anakin's story. But here's a quick refresher to help better appreciate just how Anakin was failed by the Jedi who took him in. You'll recall that Anakin was born mysteriously with no biological father to Shmi Skywalker, a slave on Tatooine. Early in the story, Anakin wins his freedom with the help from Jedi Qui-Gon Jinn. While this allows Anakin a better life, it comes at the high price of being separated from Shmi. Of all of the Jedi that could have mentored him, Qui-Gon might have been the best, precisely because Qui-Gon stubbornly believed in him. This is going to be an important point of this video. Like any dangerous thing, Anakin Skywalker needed special attention. He needed to be handled with the greatest amount of care he didn't sufficiently receive from those that chose to take over his upbringing. And through numerous scenes, we know that Yoda knows what he's dealing with. And like father, like son. Here's an illustrative moment from The Empire Strikes Back. The one where Yoda implores Luke to continue his training instead of running to help his friends, Han and Leia.
If you end your training now, if you choose the quick and easy path, as Vader did, you will become an agent of evil. Patience.
And sacrifice Han and Leia.
If you honor what they fight for, yes.
That sentiment, and the similarity between Luke and Anakin, is represented quite nicely in a scene from Attack of the Clones, where Obi-Wan has to rein in Anakin's reflexive impulse to rescue Padme, who takes a hard fall from the ship they were on.
Put the ship down! Anakin! Don't let your personal feelings get in the way. We have a job to do. I can't leave her. Come to your senses. What do you think Padme would do were she in your position? She would do her duty.
In the very next cut of this scene, Yoda certainly seems to sense Anakin's conflict. There's trouble in the air. Anakin's not right next to him, but they're close enough for the force of this heated exchange to disturb Yoda mid-thought. At the early foundational part of his life, Anakin leaves the maternal love he was still in need of. In his formative years, he lost the kind of unconditional support that the Jedi could not give him. But guess who managed to fill in that gap for Anakin? Well, his name rhymes with Palpatine. And he's the one who encouraged Anakin and told him he was a good boy, while the other adults were busier controlling and criticizing him. Being born fatherless was bad enough, but when Anakin was most in need of mothering, he received managing. In his youth, Anakin loses the two adult authority figures capable of emphasizing and nurturing his light side, his good side. For starters, Anakin loses his mother basically twice, first by separation and later by death. In between that, Anakin is denied the devoted attention of Qui-Gon, the one Jedi perhaps best suited to train him, while also serving as a kind of surrogate two-in-one parental figure. In just one film, Qui-Gon's disposition suggested someone who could combine the firm guidance of a father with the devoted patience of a mother. It's very reasonable to consider that Qui-Gon's death may have most negatively impacted Anakin's fate.
I want you to watch me and be mindful. Always remember, your focus determines your reality. Stay close to me, and you'll be safe.
So this 1-2-3 trauma combination punch winds up crystallizing the fears of a boy who already had plenty of fear in him. Remember, we're talking about a fatherless child slave who has also happened to normalize living with a self-detonating tracking device under his skin. That's the kind of thing that'll leave an impression on you.
I've been working on a scanner to try and locate mine.
Any attempt to escape,
And they blow you up. Boom!
How rude.
Because he sees that the world is mad, it makes perfect sense that he'd have a hard time accepting authority, and that he'd compensate by seeking to personally control every outcome of his life, including death, and that he'd follow anyone promising the stability he never had.
I promise you. I will even learn to stop people from dying.
All of this we know about Anakin, and the Jedi did too. But it's one thing to know what someone needs, and it's another thing to be what someone needs, even if you're a Jedi. This is precisely how Palpatine was able to manipulate Anakin. He appreciated Anakin's history. He understood his psychology and catered to it. In this sense, he succeeded where the Jedi failed, despite his motives. Basically, Palpatine made a better, more passionate sales pitch for the dark side than Yoda and company made for the light. When you advocate a philosophy, you're a salesperson. And if you're gonna sell, you'd better sell well, particularly when souls are on the line, and your product is a harder sell than your competitors.
Is the dark side stronger?
No. But the busier, more seductive.
But how am I to know the good side from the bad?
You will know when you are calm, at peace, passive. Failed, I have.
To his credit, in this scene from Revenge of the Sith, Yoda comes very close to giving Anakin what he needs. He's talking the talk, but talk is cheap. Anakin earnestly approaches Yoda with his fear and confides in him about the persistent nightmares he's having about the death of Padme, the mother of his child, or children to be exact. And again, remember what we're dealing with here. Anakin is scared, and his fears are not irrational. Sure, he's looking for guidance, but what he really needs is something he might not even realize he needs, and something that the Jedi cannot give him: familial love and support. The Jedi are great at duty and dogma, but they're not the consoling confidant he needs. For all their righteousness, the Jedi are long on wisdom and short on warmth. But the problem is that Anakin's world has been a pretty cold one, and he's internalized it.
How feel you?
Cold, sir.
Afraid, are you?
No, sir.
Your thoughts dwell on your mother.
I miss her.
Afraid to lose her, I think.
What has that got to do with anything?
Everything.
The 6 Star Wars movies are more than film, because this is real life stuff. There are technocrats among us today who are pursuing and pushing the exact same path being described in this so-called children's movie. People who, in fearing and in seeing death as a point of termination and loss, instead of a point of departure, fail to realize that they are already immortal. And to be fair to some of these people, without tangible proof of life beyond this life, fear of death is more than understandable. Belief or firm suspicions in life after death won't necessarily make you fearless, but it can certainly make you less afraid. But if you are offered some evidence, some glimpse of existence beyond this material one, which you can get, by the way, topic for another day, you might be less concerned with directing the flow of the universe because you would better appreciate the futility of fighting it.
We're looking forward to a time where we can back up our brains. Our brains will be largely non-biological, so we will be basically machines. Some people articulate, well, we need to accept death. That's the goal of life, is to get comfortable with death and accept it. I don't accept it.
I promise you. I will even learn to stop people from dying.
So Mr. Kurzweil and his ilk seem to have something in common with our boy Anakin and his OCD, Sith-like tendencies. And ultimately, that's okay. It's another powerful, albeit potentially dangerous way of learning for those who insist on pain.
The fear of loss is a path to the dark side.
I won't let these visions come true, Master Yoda.
So Anakin has drawn his line in the sand, and Yoda responds with a great line. And even though it isn't enough to save Anakin, it's something we should all take to heart.
Death is a natural part of life. Rejoice for those around you who transform into the Force. Mourn them, do not. Miss them, do not. Attachment leads to jealousy. The shadow of greed, that is.
Beautiful words. And all of that's true. But without substance or payoff, people won't and don't believe that stuff. The problem is that people understandably want sense-perceptible proof for things emanating from sources beyond their physical senses. If you want that proof, you have to find it, or have a process that makes you sensitive to it, in which case it basically comes to you. But absent that, you're unlikely to get such proof. This is why conventional religions fail to satisfy the spiritual thirst of people who have had their fill of talk and sales pitches. It's also why Yoda's answer to Anakin's next question failed to satisfy him or allay his fears.
What must I do, Master Yoda?
Train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose.
Right there. Even though that's sound and profoundly deep advice for the most spiritually mature among us, it's the wrong prescription for Anakin. Someone who was young and powerful, but not wise. And that's a dangerous combination. You simply can't tell someone like him to take two get over it's and call me in the morning. Heard from the ears of someone who suffered what Anakin has, Yoda's advice was, in itself, insufficient. Given his immense numerous responsibilities and the tense circumstances at this point in the film, Yoda is pressed for time. So he can't properly address the time bomb that Anakin is. To a more obedient, less fearful student like Obi-Wan, this would have been fine advice. But for Anakin, it's a dangerously incomplete, unsatisfying answer at a pivotal point in his life and in this story. And the very next thing he does is seek another answer from an even more ambitious snake oil salesman. Anakin doesn't want to accept change because he's come to associate change with death, non-existence, and loss. Now, combine that fear with his tendency for foresight, and you have a dangerous brew in need of dilution.
Careful you must be when sensing the future, Anakin. Fear of loss is a path to the dark side.
I know there are things about the Force that they're not telling me.
They don't trust you, Anakin.
They see your future. They know your power will be too strong to control.
It should be restated that the lesson that Anakin took from the separation and death of his mother was that change means endings, because when circumstances took him out of the equation as a protector, his only living parent died. That's powerful motivation, and for all of the faults of the prequels, storytelling wasn't one of them. So Anakin's been conditioned to fear. Despite being strong with the Force remains a mystery to him, kind of like how the life and Force that we are remains a mystery to us. We're a bit scary to ourselves. And in the face of that, most of us either accept other people's stories about what we are, or we actively seek our own deeper answers. Perhaps if Yoda had found the time and a way to express that transforming into the Force doesn't mean a state of unbeing or loss, things might have been different. With a proper approach and guidance, maybe Anakin might have come to accept death as a change of form, which he ultimately did accept at the close of the series, thanks to Luke. Luke was the first person who was as stubborn in his belief in Anakin's light as Palpatine might have been in Anakin's dark. The first person who loved him unconditionally since Shmi, and the first person who believed in him unwaveringly since Qui-Gon. Remember this scene? It's been shown here before, but it applies particularly well as a stark contrast between a scared Sith and a Jedi who's wise enough to know that their Force is best used in alignment with the greater whole.
Master Yoda, you can't die.
Strong am I with the Force, but not that strong. Twilight is upon me, and soon night must fall. That is the way of things. The way of the Force.
Like most people, Anakin is mistaking the material appearance and shape life takes for the essence of life itself. This is the change that Anakin and many of us struggle to accept, yours truly included. But it's a crucial distinction. In this scene, although Yoda instructs Anakin on what to accept, he didn't have the time to explain why he should accept it, or the deeper meaning behind it, or the fool's errand in fighting it, or the real good/scary news of eternal life. Anakin's error and folly of the Sith philosophy and approach, whether it's biological, technological, or magical, is somewhat tricky to explain. Anakin and people like him are unsatisfied without total or near total control of life, or the ability to determine its flow and dictates. They view life as the thing it produces instead of what it is, as if it's a strictly material thing that can be seized and arrested through the manipulation of the Force that it is. But the Force that it is change itself. Here's another paradox that would make Lao Tzu proud. Because change is always different, change itself is fundamentally permanent in its nature. It's the only universal constant, and is, for reasons beyond our limited left-brain comprehension, the key to life itself, at least as we can understand it. In trying to prevent or control change in a material sense, we bring forth different change. In trying to prevent death, which isn't really death, we also prevent material renewal, which inhibits and displaces life, but never eliminates it. Beyond life itself, nothing can be fully preserved as a form. But if someone was inclined to slow things down to the point where they seemed preserved, in the precise manner they wanted to keep it, they would have, in fact, killed that very thing they were trying to save. And after doing that, if they'd had any sense left, they'd find that the thing and the life they've created for themselves is not worth holding on to. And at that point, they might be finally willing to accept the inevitable and to stop worrying about the things that they cannot and should not control beyond themselves. Wiser minds have realized that life is like a game of catch. It only asks that we give up the ball in order to receive it again. And every catch and toss, every in and out, is never exactly the same. But it is. Forever.
You want to have a catch?
I'd like that.
Thanks for listening.